You can do the same action, and yet it weighs completely differently with Allah. Because it's not just the action that counts, it's the intention behind it. Imam Al-Ghazali doesn't begin with grand deeds, not with visible actions, but with what is unseen and yet determines everything: the niyyah, the intention. For him, it is not a side note. It is the beginning of every journey, the foundation of every action, and the key to acceptance in the sight of Allah. Because prayer without intention is just movement. Fasting without intention is mere hunger. Words without intention are just sound. But with the right niyyah, even sleep becomes ibadah. And with the wrong one, even prayer becomes deception. Niyyah, the internal intention, is not a formal requirement in Islam. It is not just a brief thought before prayer or a silent phrase before an action. It is the true beginning of every deed, the source from which everything else flows. Al-Ghazali describes the niyyah as the inner engine of the soul. Every act we perform, visible or hidden, is driven by an intention, and this intention decides whether an action has weight with Allah or whether it remains empty. Two people can do the same thing: pray, give charity, teach, but before Allah, they are not equal if their intentions are different. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said, actions are judged only by intentions. This isn't just a famous hadith, it is a spiritual law. It shows us that the heart is not merely the seat of emotions, but the very place where every action is born. A person who doesn't examine their niyyah lives reactively, doing things out of expectation or habit. But someone who asks, "Why am I doing this?" begins the path of self-awareness. And that is where the spiritual journey begins, with the honest question, why? Because intention is not just the start of action, it is the mirror of the heart. It reveals whether we are driven by truth or illusion, by sincerity or ego. Many people strive to do good. They want to help, donate, teach, get involved. But Al-Ghazali warns, if the niyyah is missing or corrupted, even the best actions can be hollow. Because Allah does not look at what is visible, He looks at what is hidden. Why are you doing what you do? Is it for Allah, or for your reputation, your status, your likes, or your praise? These questions are uncomfortable, but necessary. The niyyah doesn't just define the value of your action, it defines your direction. A wrong beginning leads to a wrong destination, even if the path looks noble. Al-Ghazali often says, the niyyah is like the seed of a tree. If the seed is pure, the tree will be sound. But if it's corrupted, the tree may grow, yet be hollow inside. In this context, Al-Ghazali said one of his most powerful statements: action without knowledge is nonsense, and knowledge without action is madness. This summarizes a vital truth. It's not enough to know. You must act with sincerity, and it's not enough to act if you don't understand your purpose. Niyyah connects the two. It is the light between knowledge and action. It turns theory into living truth. Whoever purifies their intention purifies their path. And that path, says Al-Ghazali, leads to nothing less than closeness to Allah. Because niyyah is not a moment, it is a direction. It transforms ordinary deeds into worship and gives silent acts a voice in the heavens. The greatest battle of the heart does not happen in the outer world, but in the quiet struggle of the niyyah. What is the point of a great deed, a visible success, if the heart loses its sincerity along the way? Al-Ghazali describes niyyah not as a one-time declaration, but as a living process, one that must be renewed day by day. It is not a single, "I do this for Allah." but a constant checking of the heart. Am I still doing it for Allah, or has something else entered my heart? A person can stand in prayer and yet worship their ego if they want to be seen. They can give charity and secretly celebrate their generosity. They can share knowledge and admire themselves for doing so. That's why Al-Ghazali warns, even the noblest actions are meaningless if done without pure intention. The niyyah is the seed, and the action is the tree. If the seed is sick, the tree will bear no real fruit. He warns especially of actions that are seen as religious: preaching, writing, teaching. These are the places where the nafs, ego, slips in silently. Fame seduces, praise flatters. Hence, Al-Ghazali repeats, action without knowledge is nonsense, and knowledge without action is madness. Because knowledge alone does not save. It can become a mirror in which you admire yourself rather than examine yourself. But when knowledge leads to humility, to self-critique, to the daily cleansing of your intention, then it becomes light. The jihad of niyyah never ends. Each morning, the believer must ask anew, who do I live for today? Who do I speak for? Who do I act for? And in that question lies not weakness, but maturity. Because the one who examines his intention knows his heart. A drop of water can evaporate meaninglessly or become the seed of a tree. So it is with every action. What you do may seem small, but through intention, it gains weight in the sight of Allah. The niyyah is the invisible compass in the believer's heart. It guides every movement, every decision, every word. Even the most ordinary acts, sleeping, eating, working, can become acts of worship if the intention is pure. A student who studies to serve Allah, a mother who cooks to strengthen her family for prayer, a worker who strives to live honestly. These may be simple deeds, but in Allah's sight, they are great when done with sincerity. Yet Al-Ghazali also warns, intention can corrupt as much as it purifies. A grand deed, a speech, a donation, a battle can become worthless if it is fed by the ego. The Prophet ﷺ said, some people will come on the day of judgment with mountains of good deeds, but they will be scattered like dust. Why? Because their niyyah was not for Allah. That's why niyyah is not just the start, it is a mirror. It shows you who you really are, beyond masks and roles, and it forces you to question yourself even when others praise you. A heart that sets its intention on Allah becomes light. It no longer craves applause, likes, or platforms. It is enough for it that Allah sees. Such a heart walks quietly. It does not need to be seen. It does not seek to impress because it seeks to be sincere. Its worth is not measured by people's praise, but by the gaze of the one who knows the unseen. Thus niyyah becomes the key to inner clarity, to outward truthfulness, and to spiritual weight in the sight of Allah. Al-Ghazali teaches us it's not external success that matters to Allah, not the number of prayers, donations, or good deeds. It's sincerity, the inner truth, the quiet decision of the heart. The niyyah may be invisible to people, but it is fully visible to Allah. And that's why every journey begins with it. Every action, every hope for reward, every door that leads to Him. Because intention is not just the path to the goal, it is already the first step toward Allah.